Okay. All right. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2022 Black Landscapes Matter Speaker Series. My name is Robin Wright-Pierce, and I am excited to be your moderator for this important conversation tonight. I am excited for the activists that we have with us this evening and the conversation that we're going to have tonight about environmental justice issues regarding food access and agricultural justice. As you all know, if you've been joining us on this journey, we are on a 6-month journey of elevating conversations with organizers, activists, and environmental justice folks across our state, where we are exploring the connections between the injustices that we often see in our Black and Brown communities and the role of the built environment and how we use the natural environment in perpetuating some of those harmful outcomes. And so our goal in this is to really broaden the conversation and to help connect the dots so that folks understand that environmental justice is a racial justice issue. And not only that, but that there are folks across our state who are working hard to do something about it. And so I'm excited for tonight's conversation where we're going to be talking with some of those folks who are doing some important work around agricultural and food justice. So Black and Brown folks everywhere know that this is a long-standing challenge for our communities. Access to healthy, safe, and affordable foods is not something that we can take for granted. And so I'm so excited that the Black Environmental Leaders Association wanted to elevate this conversation. And in light of what we witnessed in Buffalo recently, the grocery store is an important place for our communities and something that isn't always accessible to our communities. And sometimes those spaces can be harmed by white supremacists. And so as we are having this conversation, I know that that thought will be present in my mind, thinking about those folks that we lost in our community in Buffalo. And I just want to elevate that here and to acknowledge that and to say that we are going to be holding their spirits as we are having this important conversation. And so as we prepare to dive in, I want to introduce to you today our amazing panelists. I've had the privilege to spend a little bit of time getting to know these folks as we have been getting ready for this conversation. And I can tell you all that they are really amazing, brilliant people. And I'm excited for all that they're going to share with us this evening. And so to introduce to you our panelists, we actually have 3 panelists tonight who are coming from Little Africa Food Cooperative, which is an emerging community-owned grocery store that's coming to the Cleveland area that aims to provide affordable and healthy food sources for impoverished urban communities. And so representing Little Africa today, we have Miss Mickey Smith, who's the executive director for the food cooperative and the community outreach director for the cooperative. We have Angela Sales, who's the treasurer, and we also have Tila Badu, who's the founder and CEO. So welcome, ladies, to our conversation this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited. They're really amazing. They're really amazing. So you all are in for a treat tonight. We also have with us this evening Eric Means from Oko's Garden, which is an urban agricultural company that provides fresh and healthy produce to folks in the Dayton area, which isn't too far from where I'm at in Cincinnati. So I'm glad to have someone from Southwest Ohio representing here on this panel tonight. Eric, I'm so glad you were able to join us this evening.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So again, I'm excited to dive into this conversation. And I actually want to start with you, Tila. You are doing something really remarkable in Cleveland, something that's really bold and important for our communities as you are trying to put food access into the hands of the people. And so I would love it if you could kickstart our conversation as we're exploring food access by sharing a little bit about the history of Little Africa and what led you all to launching this initiative.
Peace, everybody. Peace, family. Thanks for having us here. Well, we started behind the murder of Philando Castile in 2016. That just seemed like it was so long ago. And how, okay. And, you know, like when we get murdered. Of course, we're all in an uproar and we're like, mad. A good friend of mine made a Facebook post like, "Are we mad? Are we gonna do something?" And I came up with the bright idea of opening a Black-owned grocery store because they're killing us daily through the food. Like, I mean, I live in the hood, and I live like next to 3 Family Dollars within a mile radius where I live. Gas stations, fast foods, like we don't have access to grocery stores. It's less than 1% Black-owned farmers in the United States. So we don't have ownership in food. Like, we don't own a grocery store. We aren't farmers anymore. We used to be sharecroppers. So I'm like, yeah, let's own a grocery store. We met on a hot summer day in July, and I met Miss Mickey out there. She came out. Marcus, he's another one of our founders. He isn't here. He came, we met, and we raised $1,400 in a day. We went to a Black credit union and we opened up an account. We didn't really know how we was gonna do it. It converted into a co-op, and learning about what a co-op was just the ownership, a collective ownership, which I thought was dope, to teach us also about Black economics. And yeah, Little Africa was birthed then, and we've been rolling ever since.
Awesome. That's a great story. And I love this, are you gonna be mad or are you gonna do something about it, right? And to take a otherwise tragic situation and to say, you know what, I'm gonna show up and we're gonna do something for our people out of this. We're going to birth something that we know we all need, right? And so like, kudos to you for doing that. And I would love to actually, Miss Mickey, bring you into this and to share a little bit about, when folks started gathering for this, what made you say yes?
Well, what made me say yes is, for one, I'm for us and I'm for the people. And two, I said, I don't know her. I said, but I'm going to go see what she is talking about. I'm about to chime in. I said, okay, what's this address? I showed up. It was hot. And, just the spark, just the amount of love that our people began to have behind the thought and the idea of our own Black grocery store. And because I do own, my home, and I know what ownership is like, I said, this would be real dope. So I put my name in the hat. Then I put two hands in the hat. Then I put 10 toes in it, and I've been in it since the birth of it. So the passion and the drive, and because our young leaders, they need someone like myself that has the skill sets, that has the education, that can propel them to move their initiatives forward. Mm-hmm. So that's why I threw my name and my hands and my toes all in it.
That's what's up. Yeah, that intergenerational wisdom, right? Something magical becomes possible when we come together in our community and we decide that we're going to do something. That's beautiful. Eric, I actually want to bring you into this because very closely related to this conversation around food access, right? And the need for a grocery store and the ownership, right? I hear economic justice in this, right? Of having your own grocery store. So closely related to that is agricultural justice. So, you're an urban farmer, you're a Black farmer. I don't know if you call yourself a farmer, but you're growing some food and you selling it to the people. So I'm gonna call you a farmer tonight in Dayton. And we don't see a lot of that these days. And so I would love if you could share just a little bit of what you know about the history of farming for Black people, and also what led you into this work.
Oh, sure, for sure. A lot of our people are familiar with the South and how we were sharecroppers, and how we were a big influence in the agriculture industry in the South. But what I really want to make point to understand is about our Black history in Ohio and how we made an impact in Ohio. My grandmother was part of the first generation, or the first, not the first, but one of the great migrations. I was at one point, I only knew of one. That was my grandmother. But prior to that, there actually were a couple of more prior to my grandmother migrating. It was actually a few African Americans that were already born free, who were actually about 63,000 African Americans were actually all over the Midwest, from Ohio to Illinois to Indiana, before the Civil War. Before the Civil War even happened. And there were about 300, roughly over 300 African-American farming communities around the Midwest, but Ohio had about 95 of them. So there's a lot of history behind of this, us being impactful just in Ohio as Black farmers. Mm-hmm. Now the change is that there's about 77,000 registered farmers in the state of Ohio, and about 193 are Black out of the 77,000. And that is what really inspired me to get into it, because my grandmother and my grandfather, they were really into gardening. I always knew of a garden. And I had an injury. I had a major injury back in 2018. I ruptured my patella tendon. So had about 3 surgeries, a heavy recovery. And what the doctors told me is that you need to stick with something that you enjoy and that will buy that time for the recovery process. And it was gardening. And I consider myself an urban farmer too, though. I want to change the way we look at farming. In 2022, the average age of a farmer is 55 years old. I'm 36. And so there's a new way of looking at farming. And so that's what inspired me to get into the industry.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So have you, when you think about your entry into urban farming, what has been some of the bright spots for you? And what have been some of the challenges you've encountered in that?
The bright spots is that people are very receptive. Our community is very receptive to the fact of me being an urban farmer, growing my own produce, understanding who you are, who's growing the food. People know me around my community, so you know where it's growing, you have that character, that integrity, that familiarity with your people. One of the challenges is there's not a lot of us. There's not a lot of us at all. And so you find yourself in spaces to where that people don't look like us in this industry. So that is where the challenges is, but it's not to where that it gets discouraging. It's more so it just inspires you, and it just empowers you more to be that pioneer, one of the pioneers in that space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we all need pioneers, right? It takes people who are willing to blaze trails and say, I see there's a need here, there's a gap here, and I'm going to do what I can to fill that gap.
Right.
I also just really love what you said about people know you, so they know where their food coming from.
Right.
That's definitely not something that most people can say, right? Most people can't say, I know where my food was grown, I know who grew it, I know that they put love and care into it, right? I know that they didn't spray it with all that stuff that's killing us, right? Most of us can't say that. So I think it's beautiful. There's something really restorative, I think, for our community to be able to know that, to be able to say, I'm going to get my collard greens at the Oko Garden because I know what they're going to do there, right? So I love that. I love that. And
the biggest thing is transparency. It's transparency. A lot of the times, you go to, I go to the grocery store. I made an example. I bought a container of tomatoes from Mexico, so how do you know that's grown? The food miles that it takes to get to our area, and then the amount of time it sits on the desk before it even gets to your fridge and you are ready to cook with it. So it's just, how is it being grown? What are they putting in it? You can ask me those questions personally and feel good about it. So.
Exactly. That's awesome. And so I want to come back to this grocery store co-op. And Miss Angela, I want to bring you in, and also Mickey and Tila, feel free to respond as well. As you are trying to get this co-op up. I know you said you saw there was a need for something. You decided, there's a problem. We're going to do something about it. We're not just going to be mad about the things that are happening in our community. We're going to go and we're going to advocate for and put our feet all the way in, right? And our hands all the way in and get dirty in there and do something about it. And so can you share a little bit about what you've encountered as you've been doing this work? I know it's really deeply connected to food access and food justice. There's not a lot of Black grocery stores. And I don't know about Cleveland, but in Cincinnati, there's a lot of Black neighborhoods that don't have a grocery store. And so what are you noticing in the neighborhoods that you are working in as in terms of the challenges you're encountering around food access and food justice?
Are you addressing that to me first or to
Yeah.
Ms. Tila? Oh, okay. Well, I was going to tell you how I got involved in the work, but I'll jump right into that particular question.
Yeah, go ahead and tell the Ange. Tell her real quick.
Okay, I'll indulge. Thank you, Queen. Well, Tila and I, we have several ties, actually, personal and professional. But when I heard about the grocery store initiative, I wanted to get involved with it because my life's work is around financial unity for the Black community. And so we have shared values in terms of bringing our community together. And as women, not just Black women, but African women around the world, food is where we have a lot of power and say so in our families and our culture. And we have the ability to impact change just around how we prepare, purchase, grow, with the narrative, the choices that we have around food. And so initially I came in as an outsider, as a business consultant, but Tila liked me and she recruited me to her team. And then I became the treasurer of the organization. And we've been rocking for 6+ years on this journey now. And one of the bigger
took over
pictures.
my meeting is what happened. She took over the meeting, and I'm like, you got to be a part of my team. You got to be a part of the squad.
She said I took over. It was a friendly takeover. It wasn't hostile or anything. But one of the issues that I wanted to bring up, just in relation to this, I had been doing some work globally around agribusiness and financial sustainability. And there is just an overall need for us to own part of the global food supply chain, period. Locally, nationally, and we need international sources of food because we all know when COVID hit or if they decide to shut the grocery stores down for 3 weeks, the writing is on the wall, right? In the condition that we're in. So the last thing is that I just have a personal story about dealing with food. I resonate with single Black mothers and women and how we struggle with trying to have self-care, eat well, but you also got homework to do, work to go to, laundry to do, houses to clean, and if you got a husband or a significant other, it's a whole job to focus on eating healthy. So it's a struggle, that we have. So even personally, I feel like there's a lot of women in the community that share my struggle and story. And so I know that we are able to impact the community that way. So Little Africa is here. In terms of the challenges, I don't want to prolong it. I'm going to just say something briefly and then let our president and our executive director speak to it. But I think one of our challenges is the organizing. I think Eric alluded to this, how people are siloed and fragmented in the space. And so, that's a gap of us being organized so that we can move in a oneness. Of course, we're better if we put all our resources and our effort and our energy together and actually collaborate, actually cooperate. And so that's, one of our biggest challenges that I wanted to mention, and I'll let Tila and Ms. Mickey come in. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just real quick, to veggie back off of Angela. I think a challenge has been not so much even with with food access, but educating our people on like what healthy eating looks like. Because even if once we bring the grocery stores, like healthy food, like vegetables, produce. So what we did with our nonprofit piece is fed people over the 2 years of COVID. And we fed them healthy meals, but we made them ourselves, as well as we gave those same vegetables to them, to families, and we delivered them. So I just think the education piece is a problem too, because they looking at eggplant and zucchini, they want some fried chicken and some macaroni and cheese. Like, so trying to educate on what healthy eating looks like. And it's so funny because somebody mentioned it to me, like, why is it healthy? Why is it just not eating? You know what I'm saying? But it's like, this is proper eating. This is how you're supposed to eat. You know what I mean? But I think that's one of the challenges as well, is just like learning what, like, real food is, what I like to say, what real food is, what that looks like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, to veggie back off of what my queens had stated, in this particular space, what we have found, like Tila mentioned, we created an emergency response for the 2 years to feed our seniors, to feed our shut-ins. And what we began to see was a CP repeat. They seen us do it, and then they began to repeat it. People who was not even in this food space began to start wanting to feed people. It became as if we were the pioneers of feeding people, because once we got out there, everybody wanted to feed people. I thought you was an organization that thrived off of nothing but policies and procedure. Why are you feeding the people? What changed your mind? But it was Little Africa Food Collaborative that got out there, that did the work and loved on the people. And when they seen that we had the ability to not only love on the people, but get into the communities, feed the people, and we began to get grants for it. So now you got us having the ability to do more. So when others may have seen us wanting to do more, they got in it and said, oh, well, maybe we can get in and do more, but their hearts wasn't in it. And that is the challenge in our communities, is we got people that jump for checks. They jump for what is the next common thing to do in order to put some money in their pocket. And it's really not about the people. And then the other thing that we found as a challenge is our community is challenged with trust. They are challenged with trusting people that's coming into their communities. We got so many people that's coming into our communities, the grocery stores, and they only taking, they're not giving. So when we come, we're not only giving, but our food is made with love, and they feel it, and they call us and they want more. So the challenge is not having the ability to be able to do more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love where you were going in terms of how you did something and then people were like, I see that. I want to get in that, right? There's something powerful about leading by example, right? And I hear that in what you said, and I just think that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
It is, and I had to kind of take a backseat as a leader and understand that if it's working, it may be our idea, but if it's working and it's allowing for our people to be fed in different segments, go right ahead. You can go ahead and take that. Yes, we will allow you to continue to feed our people based on a thought and idea that we brought out there. So absolutely do that for us. So guess what? We're going to figure out exactly what else we want everyone to do for the people. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to follow.
Mm-hmm. Amen. You going to church. That's some wise leadership right there, to be able to, for real, to be able to put your ego aside and to say, like, actually, there's so much need in our community. There's so much need. And so even if someone is sliding in somewhere, there's still something else. There's something else. There's another way that your gift can help. And if the need is being met, that frees up your capacity to dream even bigger, to go, what else is possible. So I love that. I love that. Like, you just gifted my whole spirit with that. So I want to talk a little bit about, you all are like in the nitty gritty of creating food access for people. And I know, I definitely grew up in neighborhoods where we didn't always have grocery stores. And that's something that I'm thinking about in this conversation, right? So for our viewers who are like, shoot, like, grocery stores aren't coming in our neighborhood. Where are the people feeding the folks in our neighborhood? I would like to talk a little bit about, like, why is that the case, right? Because part of these conversations is elevating, like, how has race and racism played a role in how things are currently laid out, that there is a need for that. And so I want to put out there the question of, how do we get to a place where there's not a lot of Black-owned grocery stores? There's not even a lot of grocery stores in Black neighborhoods, where Black farmers are down to 160 in the whole state. I see a few folks unmuting, so y'all gonna have to duke it out for who gonna speak first.
I'll go first, just real quick. Redlining. If you look at we don't have access to capital, our housing issues, everything is triggered and centered around redlining, even food. And when we talk about food, we talk about food as a food apartheid, because it's something that's done intentionally. So I'm going to leave it there, because trust and believe, I got some partners that's getting ready to give their thoughts on this piece too. Go ahead, E.
Yeah. Well, I think it's part of it. As a community, they make us more consumers than producers. Mm-hmm. It's in our society, it's in our culture. So I think that's something that needs to be more encouraged on the other side, for us to become more producers. I think we just got lost in it. We just got lost in how things were, to where need to be more producers rather than consumers. So.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
On that one. We used to use the term food deserts in our community. We upgraded that to food apartheid, because we know that deserts are a natural phenomena that occurs in nature. And we know that the closing of our grocery stores, fresh produce going out, more Dollar Generals, Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, coming in, is not a natural occurrence. It is planned, it's intentional, and some of the stores that have come in to replace, when they do have produce, is old. It's not, it's just not good food. And so part of it has to do with city planning. City planning is attached to other planning. You have global plans. And so just, we have pandemics. And so part of it is, it may sound conspiratorial, but it comes into fruition when you see certain segments of the population continuously marginalized and genocided, and, everything without any restitution or recourse. And so, in other words, it's just intentional that we are left out. In order for the system of capitalism to thrive, you have to have a bottom. And so it's just been the intention of certain groups that Black folk stay on the bottom to keep it striving. And so with the food situation, that's a basic need. If we can't supply for our own basic needs, then that puts us in a crazed, mental state of confusion, just trying to figure out how to survive from day to day. And we're here. I mean, it's been effective. It's definitely been effective. So I'll just sum it up and say that I think it's intentional. I think that we must be aware that it is, and then our counteractions should be governed based on that knowledge. Some folks may just think, oh, this is just the way it is. But based on the information that we have access to, we know that it's not just the way it is. It's like that because certain powers want it to be that way. Therefore, we have to do whatever we got to do by any means necessary, Malcolm X, to survive. Okay.
Yes, yes. Tila, I see you unmuted yourself. What do you want to add?
Yeah, just to add to that, if I can, from maybe a different perspective, because we could put the blame on everybody else and even the conspiracy, as well as, the government piece and being involved in politics, voting, and being a part of the planning and the city planning, like, it's a lack of knowledge. One of the things is how what Mickey started to say, like, just with worrying about our house, like worrying about our daily, everyday life, like eating healthy is like the last thing we thinking about. Healthy food is the last thing we think about. We just trying to feed ourselves. So if it's a canned good, if it's a piece of chicken, if it's some rice, you know what I'm saying? So I think education is like the major component, because once you know better, you do better. So I think that's like the foundation of things, because once you know, then you start to change. You start to be like, okay, well, maybe I need to start going up to these city plan meetings. Maybe I need to figure out how to just grow some food in my yard, where I don't have to depend on nobody else feeding me. I can feed myself. So yeah, that's it.
I want to respond and just veggie back on what Tila said. I do agree with what she said. We have to that's basically activating our own power, getting the knowledge and making sure that we do better. But your question to access is also probably the angle in which I was coming from. I can get good food if I go some miles away from my house and find a Whole Foods or the Fresh Market District. To my point, if I lived in another zip code, it wouldn't be that hard for me to make a good food choice. But if I live in another other zip code, then trying to get a food choice, the access to it is that much more difficult. So I just wanted to lift that. And it means that we have to be intentional about our decisions, but it ain't just easy for us as it is if you live in another different place,
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, no, I love this conversation, right? Because what you all are kind of bringing in from each of the perspectives is like, it's really complicated, is what it comes down to. There is that piece around education and knowledge, right? You have to know better to do better. There is that piece around agency and ownership, right? You got to decide, I'm not just going to be a consumer, I'm going to be a producer. You have to decide, I'm going to go and make the right choices. And then there's that piece that Miss Mickey and Angela was just referencing around, like, what would be structural racism, right? The ways that policies, historical policies and practices have created outcomes and landscapes that have made access to healthy choices abundant and readily available for some and not for other, right? And so just for our viewers, I know Miss Mickey threw out the term redlining. If you're not familiar with redlining, I definitely encourage you to go do a little bit of research on it. But just to give a little bit of an overview, redlining is referring to some policies and practices that the federal government undertook going back to the post-Reconstruction era that lasted for over 60 years, where they surveyed cities across our country, and based on the demographics living in different neighborhoods, they coded them A, B, C, or D. D were the ones that were redlined in the communities and neighborhoods that were redlined were the communities that had African Americans in them, also proximity to Irish and Italians at that time. And those communities they use those maps that they created from surveying these cities across the country to identify where they would give loans to for houses, where they wouldn't, where they would put toxic waste sites, where they wouldn't, where there would be access to better quality resources, where there would not be, right? And so everything from whose schools have funding, where grocery stores are, where the dumps are in our local area, where our trash get taken to, right? Where the radioactive chemical waste that come out of these plants go at the end of the day, all of that is connected to these maps that were created over a 50-year period. And this continues to impact to this day what zip codes get, what type of interest rates for loans, what type of opportunities, where grocery stores are. All of these things are connected. And so that's what redlining is referring to when people say redlining. That's really what they're talking about, is that historical piece of how things didn't get this way by accident. And so I love this conversation because we're getting at a lot of it, right? We're getting at that piece, but we're also getting at the personal agency of like, what do you do, right? Okay, that's the landscape. And how can we use agency and knowledge to overcome the realities of how things got to be the way that they are today? And so, Miss Mickey, I see you unmuted. So what you got to add here?
You know, when you start talking about the redlining, you got to think about even with the voting, you know, the gerrymandering, what we're going through now in just Ohio, that they're doing a lot of redistricting, you know, every 10 years, the census, you know, when we think about that, we have to think about, we don't want to be seen. We don't want nobody to know that we exist. We don't want nobody to know we got 15 people in one household or whatever the case may be. Oh, Uncle Ray Ray might be wanted by the government or something, and Uncle Ray Ray don't want to be seen. However, all of this has a plight in our struggle because we're not getting those dollars because we're not being counted. We're not making sure that we are being counted as the people. And because we are not being counted, guess what? We go unnoticed. We do not get the federal dollars into our communities because guess what? We wasn't counted. They don't know that we're there and that we don't know that we exist. Our elders and our seniors, they're not being counted because we as young leaders are not going out there to ensure that our people know that politics all play a game in what is going on with us today. And I say that because if you know anything about politics and you know how all of a sudden houses get torn down and a community can just have a freeway go right through it, get involved in your politics. Stop saying your vote don't count, because I can tell you, being an elected official, you know, whether I'm a precinct person or not, the people elected me. Whether I won by 15 votes, 2 votes, or 3 votes, guess what? I got elected. And we have to ensure that our vote is counted. And the only way we can do that is we got to get out there and we have to be advocates and understand what it is that we're doing and how to drive it.
Yeah, I love this. And so I want to bring us back because I think this is so, what I love about you four is that you four are saying, okay, these are the realities of our communities, right? These are the realities of the challenges we're facing. And then y'all out here like grinding to do something about it, right? And that's the beauty of Oko's Garden and Little Africa, right? These two groups, you four are out here, and those you're working with doing something about it. And so Eric, I want to bring you back into this conversation again, because as we know, for initiatives like Little Africa to work, they got to be able to source their food, right? And so as you're thinking about the work that you're doing as an urban farmer, how do you think that what do you think your role is in resources that you may need in order to help to fill the gap so that the food that they're able to source for their grocery store is fresh, is ethically sourced, is known how it's grown, right? In addition to what they might grow themselves. So yeah.
Oh, for sure. And to bring back to Little Africa's point, it's about that organization, creating that ecosystem of farmers like myself throughout Ohio to just come together, cooperate, form our own ecosystem. We don't have to wait on the government. We don't have to wait on anyone. We can work together, create that own ecosystem, and we can streamline it. I think that's what's the most important and the next step at this point.
Do you have
110%? Yes, yes.
Go ahead, Tila.
I just wanted to say I agree. Like I just am, I hate to say the word believe, but just a knower of just not waiting on anyone. And like we've had the privilege of meeting different farmers. Just last month, or was the beginning of this month, of meeting farmers throughout the state. And like you said, just creating that ecosystem. I know politics has its place, but I feel like doing things within our means and in our network is possible, and it's possible now without a wait, without even an ask. When we think about the Black dollars, go back to what Eric was saying earlier, we are consumers. We spend $1 trillion on buying things. So it's not like we don't have the money. It's not like it does not exist. We don't have to ask no government for no money, for nothing. Like, we got it. We just need to organize better, and we need to create those ecosystems and to happen and to work, and to trust each other, because we don't. You know, you ask for $1 from your brother, like, what you gonna use that dollar for? You know what I mean? So yeah, the trusting and just creating and organizing as a unit, as Black people, just moving together without the trust factor being in the way, without money being in the way, because money is really, it's real, but it ain't real for real. You know what I mean? Like, it only got power because we give it power. You know what I'm saying? The land, the resource is the land. Like, the land is here. We here.
And I think the rising housing costs have made that clear, right? If you didn't already own the house in the last few years, trying to rent or buy one anytime recent is a lot. You see that land premium going on there.
Yeah.
Hi. We got a little Africa little visitor with us this evening. Yeah, so as we're about to start to wrap up the conversation, I want to piggyback on what you're saying, Tila, about veggie back. I'm sorry. I want to veggie back on what y'all saying around not waiting on others, right? Like, this realizing like we have the power ourselves. And so what are some ways that folks can get involved in the work that you're doing? If folks are like, you know what, I want to start a co-op in my city, right? Or I want to start doing some urban agriculture at my house, right? In my neighborhood, what are some ways that folks can get involved? And Ms. Mickey, we'll start with you, and then folks can chime in.
Okay, well, this is my part. When you say, how can you get involved? Collaboration. We've been working with Village Family Farms for the last 4 years, and that's our home farm that we work with. So when we talk about making sure that our local farmers have the hands, the bodies, that's what we do. We ensure that he has the ability to be able to scale up. What does that look like? We bring in our skill sets. We go out and we try and attempt to get the volunteers for him. Right now, we got 12 youth opportunities unlimited, and we have the kids out there working for the summer. So how can you get involved? Come, right? Come, show up. When we put the call out there and ask for volunteers, we just need you to come and show up. Put your hand in there. If you got a couple hours in the week, just come and get some sun. Come and fellowship with us. You get 168 hours in a week. And if you can't dedicate 2 hours to an organization or give them some time, then you need to really rethink your busy schedule, because you're probably just busy being busy and ain't doing anything, you know? So I put that out there because, you know, you take that 168 and you really need to be intentional with your time. So when you get involved, come out, bring your love, bring your time, and bring your energy. I always want to see your love, your time, and your energy. That's what I will say, that you can come out and get involved. Buy a share. You know, we've been doing this for 6 years. Buy a share. Show us that you have a skill set that we can utilize and we can bring you into our fold so we can utilize the skill sets that you have. If you have your own company, how can we help you? You know, this is about us taking the initiative and propelling each and every one of our missions and our visions to push each other ahead. Because again, I can't be as great as I am if I did not push you to be as great as I know you can be.
Right, right. And it sounds like you some folks showed up and put some time and some energy and some love recently at the Ag Day in Columbus. Were you all a part of that?
Absolutely, we were.
Yeah.
Right
So
on Capitol Hill.
what was that about for our viewers who may not know? What was that initiative about?
The initiative was about speaking to your state representatives, speaking with your local government on policy. You know, how can we be influential in creating the necessary policies in order for us to do the work that we are doing. Money is being spread around us, but it's not being spread around to us. So how can we change the landscape of how the funds and how the money goes to the urban farmers? How can we create policy around this and do it collectively and collaboratively? You know, and again, the only way in which we can do it is everyone come to the table, one mission, one vision, and one voice. And that voice speaks for everyone. You know, we got a whole lot of other people that want to speak for us. No, I don't want you speaking for me. This is who I want to speak for me. Policy Day, Ag Noire Day, then and only then you can speak me, because we have the same mission and visions and we're moving towards the same goal.
Awesome, awesome. Angela, Tila, what would you add to folks who want to get involved with co-op and food access? Angela, you first.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Let me see. Mickey covered come join us at the garden. She covered become a member owner of Little Africa. She covered add something to the policy, add your voice to policy. So those are 3 things. I guess some of the other things that we can use is if you have like skill sets, administrative skills, you can come and serve on a steering committee or just, connect with us, because while the growing is happening, there's also logistics involved in the growing. There's also distribution that has to happen. If you're doing value added products, that's a whole process, doing the selling to wholesale to market. So when we talk about from seed to table or farm to table or, from all ends of the supply chain, there's a lot of administration and expertise that we need. There's just a little story. I don't know how many minutes we have, but we have the opportunity to invest in a cooking oil business overseas on the continent, actually. And what has happened is that a lot of money has gone into buying the equipment from the Chinese to process the raw materials, which is palm oil, into either crude oil or refined oil that then becomes cooking oil. But the project has stopped because the expertise isn't there. And so sometimes we, invest, but it just made me drive home the point that part of us making the organizing and the whole food ecosystem into our own is that we need all components of expertise to be able to make it go. So if you come in, what I did was leave corporate. Mickey and I left corporate. We came into the community full time. We brought our skill sets with us. So if you're in corporate and you can, bring some of your talents or cutting edge tools, serve on the steering committee, join Ag Noire, hit up the brother Oko. We have a lot of organizations. So not only do we need hands, but we also need minds. So lend your mind to the movement.
Tila, did you have anything to add before Eric chimes in?
I think they kind of covered everything. To be honest, like our page, follow our page, be updated on what we do. Our website, visit our website, Little Africa Food littleafricafco.com. That way you updated on what we're doing. Just follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Little Africa FCO on Facebook and Instagram. So you can be updated on what we're doing. If you want to bring a co-op to your city, every year we go to up and coming food co-op conference that's usually in where is that? Wisconsin. Yeah, it'd be kind of cold, but that's our family, and they taught us a lot. We still in learning phases, even though it's been 6 years. The cooperative world is very different. It's a different type of business model because it's togetherness, and togetherness is kind of where we lack a little bit working together. So just doing it, even though I think me, Nikki, Angela, we just raw. We work good together. I don't know. The creator put us together for a reason.
Yes.
But you're just trying to get the community to do that. So I would suggest them as an education base to learn how to bring a co-op to your city, because I think it's important, especially as Black people. Like, it's ours. Cooperativeness is ours. So just taking back what is native to us and just working together. But that's it.
I love that. I love that. The creator brought y'all together. Eric, if folks like myself who got too much land to mow decide they want to garden and grow some food and be an urban farmer, what's some advice you have for folks who are interested in just getting involved in growing their own food and supplying that to others even?
Sure. I mean, if you don't have any experience, the first thing I would do is honestly just try. Just plant a seed, start small and scale and grow. Educate yourself. There's a lot of free programs. I actually went through an incubator program here in Dayton, Ohio through Central State University. They have a lot of programs where you can really kind of put yourself in that industry to get some type of education, just in regards to just, hey, how you germinate a seed? How do you till the ground? It just gives you those basics. So just start there, and believe it or not, grow what you like to eat. Because if you grow things just to see them grow because they're easy to grow, it might not be as motivational. So if you eat tomatoes, grow tomatoes. If you like lettuce, grow lettuce. So stick to what you know, and that encourages you to consistently fall into that mindset.
That's great advice. Start with what you actually eat. Otherwise, you're going to grow something and be like, why did I don't even like zucchini. I actually love zucchini personally, but you know.
You can give it to me. I eat everything.
I love zucchini.
Yeah, I love it.
So I so deeply appreciate you all. And I hope that our viewers watching, I am just so grateful that you took some time out of your evening to spend with us in the Black Environmental Leaders Association, which is an association of Black environmental justice activists and practitioners, researchers, folks who are committed to ensuring environmental justice for Black folks across our country. And so I'm so glad that you all viewers took time to share in this evening, in this conversation with us. I don't know about you, but I feel inspired from this conversation just to hear such rich stories of folks who decided to just do something, right? There's something so powerful about that. I think there's so much time spent wallowing in the challenges that we face in our community. There's so much time spent stuck in these internalized feelings that we can't do anything, that the issues or the challenges or the obstacles are too big for us. And so I just love that tonight we got to bear witness to inspiration of what it looks like to just decide, enough, I'm going to do something. I'm not going to wait on someone else. I'm going to get together. I'm going to invite some folks to join me, and whoever show up, we're going to figure this out together, stumble through it together, collaborate together, and birth something beautiful for the community. And so I'm so grateful for each of our panelists tonight, Angela, Eric, Tila, Miss Mickey, for just sharing in your wisdom, your experience, the stories, just all the love that was shared in this panel conversation tonight. And I want to thank the Black Environmental Financial Leaders Association and CommEN Strategies for coordinating this and for inviting me to host this. And I want to thank our viewers for tuning in with us this Tuesday evening. Next month is our wrap up for this 6-month series. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be amazing. We're really going to take this to a whole new level again. Every month just seems to get better. And so I'm excited for the next one. And I hope that you all will join us. I look forward to seeing you there. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you, everyone.